All right, hello and welcome everyone to a Visit to the Bahamas A to Z Facebook Live. I'm your host, Andrew Willoughby, and I am joined with Veronica McFall and RJ Jenkins, the author and illustrator of A Visit to the Bahamas A to Z, respectively. Now, I'd like to start out by just saying what inspired you to write the book?
I can take that if you don't mind, RJ.
Hmm.
Hi, everybody. My name is Veronica. Thanks for joining us. What inspired me to write the book was I remember taking many trips to the Bahamas as a young child. I've been going there since I was an infant. And as I grew older and had a family, I started taking my children down also to meet their relatives and get to learn more about the country and participate in some of the festivals, etc. So those things kind of inspired me to write the book. Also, I've always been curious about other cultures and other countries. And from a very early age, I knew that I wanted to learn Spanish. And when I went to college, through high school and college, I pursued the Spanish language and also encouraged my children to learn other languages as well. So for me, what motivated the book was I just love travel. I love other countries and cultures and people, and also because visiting the Bahamas as a young person and also with my own children inspired me to write the book. So that's why I really wanted to write this and share it with not only kids but also adults who might read it to them as well.
I would just add from my end, I'm the illustrator, but I was inspired by Veronica because of her passion for the project. She was so invested and interested in getting this project off the ground, and her enthusiasm was infectious. And I could see that it meant a lot to her. And we had known each other prior um, to the point when she asked me, but just um, being inspired by how much she wanted to do this, that was a great jumping off point for me.
Well, thank you both for your response to that question. Now, kind of going off of you, RJ, how did you learn how to draw?
Well, I have enjoyed drawing going as far back as I can remember. Um, I went through all of the drawing stages that all children do, except for artists, we just keep going with it. And I think for those that feel that they can't or don't want to draw, there's a point where they stop. I've been an art teacher for a long time, and I know that everyone has the ability to draw, but oftentimes people have a hard time working through some of the discomfort as they learn to become better artists. And just for me, I never stopped. So I was always driven to get better at drawing. And I've always enjoyed being creative and getting into that kind of quiet zone of drawing and painting is something that I treasure. Um, I had a very influential art teacher when I was in high school. And I mentioned her on the dedication page, who pushed me and made me think outside the box. She taught me to see as an artist sees. She encouraged me and encouraged me to pursue art beyond high school. So I went to Bates College and majored in visual arts, and just found that the more that I dove in and learned, the more I loved it. So it's been a lifetime passion for me, and it's never stopped. As I've taught kids, I've really enjoyed seeing them go through their art journey, and it's been really rewarding. But I've also just always maintained my own desire to work and have found in summers and vacations that I've just never stopped, and so it's been a lifelong process.
Cool. Thank you for that. Kind of going off of what you were talking about, just going into projects. This goes for both of you. What was the process like to create the book, and what were some things that you guys really enjoyed about the process?
Well, for me, this process is a 14-year process. When my father passed away in 2006, I wanted to find a way to commemorate his childhood growing up in the Bahamas. He grew up on the island of Acklands, and also my mother is from the Bahamas, and she grew up on the island of New Providence. So for me, that was the impetus I needed to leave something for my children that would give them an opportunity to appreciate and understand their grandparents' journey. So that started 14 years ago. So it first started out as a haiku poem, alphabetical poem. Then it quickly changed to a fact-finding adventure with 4 characters. So that was part of the process, the idea and developing the idea. Of course, sorting out the words and the structure, that takes a lot of time, but I've had a good amount of time to be able to do that. So that was probably the most challenging part of the process, was trying to figure out how to articulate the vision. The other part was to be able to find somebody who can express the vision visually. And I was very lucky because RJ is an artist of tremendous skill. Anybody who can teach art, I know, has to have the patience to be able to go through many different changes. And of course, when you're creating a book, the artist and the illustrator kind of have to be in sync in terms of what the vision is and how to express that vision visually. So I think that those are 2 of the biggest challenges that I think that I faced personally in terms of being able to produce this book.
I would say, in terms of the process and what I have enjoyed, first and foremost, it has been a labor of collaboration between the 2 of us. It's her vision, it's Veronica's vision, and it's my job to portray that on the page. We certainly have had a lot of back and forth over the phone throughout the course of this project. For me, as a first-time illustrator, there was a lot that I didn't know, and I still don't know, quite honestly. And I think once I settled in on deciding to do the work digitally, I had to figure out some technique and style. A lot of the traditional drawing structure carries over to the digital world, but it was an adjustment. One of the other things that I think was really important during our process was establishing the look of things. So Veronica was great about really expressing how bright and vibrant and colorful the Bahamas is, and how those pages need to reflect that wonderful style. I had actually visited the Bahamas about 18 years ago on my honeymoon, and I saw how beautiful the country was, but it was a short stay. We were on a cruise and we're only there for a very short time. But it did offer me the opportunity, making the book offered me this wonderful opportunity to revisit this place that I had seen briefly, but really do a deep dive and really get to know it on a much more personal level. There's some other things that we had to figure out which size of the book we wanted the pages to be. We went through some different iterations. Originally, the characters were a little more realistic looking, and I think once we settled on the cartoony style that you see in the background behind Veronica there, I was able to better show emotion and expression with the characters. Another thing that we had to deal with was the fact that this is a factual book. It's based in fact, and so making sure that things look as close to as they can in real life is really, really important. It was time consuming, but also really rewarding to get things to look the way that they do when you visit one of the places that you see in the book. And then we did a lot of editing as we got closer and closer. There were lots of little tweaks and edits to the type and to the images. And again, more of that back and forth dialogue and sharing of thoughts and ideas. I feel like the longer we were at it, the more on the same page we were. And I think that's been really valuable for me. It's definitely been a balancing act. And there were times where I was a little skeptical if I could pull my end of the deal. But after looking at where we are now, I'm really, really pleased with the result.
Kind of continuing on with this, you guys already touched on this a little bit, but what was the biggest challenge in the production of the book?
I think time. Um, People think that you can just write a book in 6 months and it'll be printed and published and ready to go, and that couldn't be farther from the truth. It really is a time consuming process. You kind of have to, like I said, you got to have to find the right words, the right verbal expression, the right visual expression. The back and forth takes time. RJ and I do not live in close proximity to one another. I'm in the metro New York area. He is in the New England region. We're about 8 hours apart by car. And, we never had the opportunity to sit side by side during this 2-year process and talk about this. Everything that we've discussed, everything that we've done, it's been by email, text message, phone call, and, virtual meetings. So it's been an interesting process in terms of the communication and to see how wonderfully the project has come together. That's really amazing, given that we had to work using different modalities and as opposed to being in closer proximity to have face-to-face meetings.
I would say the same answer, time, because I and Veronica, we both work a full-time job and have families, and for both of us, family is extremely important, and we want to spend as much time with family as we can. And so that's always priority number one. And so then finding the right amount, the right time to work and having the amount of time that you need in order, as Veronica said, to really invest in this project, because it doesn't come together like that. There is a lot of legwork that you need to do from many different standpoints. I know for me, I got a lot better at searching out opportunities to work on the book. I definitely spent a lot less time watching TV on my couch, which was a great benefit to me, because I spent a lot more time working on this and thinking about this. So time was definitely a challenge, but I think we had a great understanding early on of the fact that we both had limitations in our lives and other things going on, and we just kind of worked through it as best that we could. And it took maybe a little bit longer than it would have otherwise, but we've made it.
So, thanks for answering that question. And I would kind of want to segue into this part here due to all the work that you guys put into this and all the time. What do you really hope a reader would gain from reading this book?
Hmm, That's a good question. I hope the reader will gain that learning never ends, that learning is a lifelong process, and that if you're looking at a book that's different than what you've experienced in your own life, that's good. That means that you are willing to learn about other people and other ways of life, other ways of doing things, and experiencing what other children do in other parts of the world. And then when you do, have the courage to do that and discover, wow, they do things that are very similar to what I do in my daily life and daily routines. So I really want young people to have a sense of curiosity and a sense of not being afraid to try to learn about different places and people and cultures. That's kind of what I hope that young people would take away from reading this book, is that, we're all pretty much the same. We just have different ways of doing things because of our cultures and our family traditions, but to be open-minded, to learn about those things that are different than your everyday life.
Mm-hmm. I would 100% agree with everything that she said, and I would just add that the Bahamas is an amazing place full of incredible people and culture and interesting history. And helping to create the book, I've learned so much, and my hope is that others would learn something about the Bahamas that they didn't know prior. And then as an educator, I'm always interested in learning and how helping kids learn. And so I hope that kids learn about the Bahamas, but also about research and fact finding and searching for truth. And then I think finally, I would love it if kids were entertained and that they had enjoyment in making it and through the book and seeing the adventure that the characters have gone on, and then be inspired to maybe go out and look for some answers of their own and whatever it is that interests them.
Well, thank you both for answering my questions. This is the end of the interview, and I just want to thank everyone in the audience for watching, and stay tuned on the Facebook page as we will continue to update the audience on the release of the book. And a big thank you to everyone involved and everyone watching. Thank you.